at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. I know cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for hemp. I am your host, Casper-Leitch. You are listening to the live broadcast of Time for Hemp all around the world at timeforhemp.com, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and of course, iHeartRadio. We are the first and foremost, and I think the only all cannabis network on iHeartRadio, and we are growing every week. This week we began our Japanese version of Time for Hemp. It's supposed to be 2 hours a week. We've gotten 1 hour done so far. It's a difficult program to edit and to pull together. And we also, starting next week, Joe Grabine brings his program to the network, as does Muck Sticky. So let your friends know that if they're looking for a growing network with interesting content, the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network is like a good joint, best when shared with friends. It is Wednesday, Leap Day, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. My joint host, Peter Criss, having a bit of a sad day. One of his close friends has passed away. Peter, my dad, who's 82 years old, reminds me that old age is a gift not given to everyone. Those who do receive that gift should treasure every moment. I pass it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you mention fathers, my father always used to say that the older you get, the more dead people you know. So
my dad's 89. Correction. So yes.
I've decided that I moved from the smart stage of aging into the wise state of aging. And I've also come to the conclusion that the smart stage had a better memory.
For those people who are listening, that is a member of our family.
Yes.
And someone who's now going Hollywood is Judge Leonard Frieling. Judge, thank you for being on the big program today.
Always a treat.
And why don't you let people know about you turning Hollywood on us?
Yeah,
the name of the movie is Mile High, The Comeback of Cannabis. My hero who put it together is Adam Hartle. And the most exciting part of the whole thing, and I hate to admit it because it makes my ego show, but the most exciting part of the whole thing I learned yesterday, I now have a page on IMDb.
Whoa, okay.
Soon you'll be getting an agent, and then I'll have to call your people and have your people call my people just to get you on the show.
In the meantime, have your cat call my cat.
All right.
You know, it's funny. I don't know if being on the IMB list was on your bucket list, but I always tell people that my bucket list is full. I don't have one, and the reason why I say that is because of Dean Becker, because he wrote that book. To end the war on drugs, and in there he's got a little section on a guy by the name of Peter Criss. So I am now part of history.
Congratulations.
So that's all.
Peter, you've been making history for years.
Yeah, well, at least in my mind. How's things going out there in Colorado? Things moving along, just kind of catching a normal pace and becoming normal?
Things are moving wonderfully. The big picture is all the numbers are good. The state has not collapsed. We're not down to 49 states now.
Right.
On the other hand, if somebody smokes a joint and trips over a crack in the sidewalk, it's front page news, and it's not the fault of the crack in the sidewalk.
Of course, of course. And we get those same reports on the people who drink a beer and trip over the crack in the sidewalk. Only then we have to fix the sidewalk.
And their car,
Yeah,
and the three people they ran over who were on the sidewalk.
Exactly. Here's something that I've been wondering for a couple decades now. And because we have Washington and Colorado, I just wonder if there are any incidents of this. And that is, I have been nervous about the marijuana first aspect of this movement because I would afraid that we would lose a lot of people because once they got their weed, they'd be happy and the drug war would just continue after going after all the other people. Are you noticing any of that yet, that they're kind of pulling away from the overall legalization question because now they got their marijuana legal?
I can certainly speak for myself. I'm sitting here in a state where if I'm so moved, I can drive down the block, buy pot, come home and smoke it. And here I am sitting outside on a LEAP-oriented program.
Right.
So for myself, the answer is no, we want a battle. It's a good one. There's still all the rebuilding and building from ground up in the battle we've won, and the war goes on. But is it a significant step? Yeah, it's huge. And I really like to believe that more people, not less, will find it easier to understand and embrace the LEAP logic.
Right. Well, go ahead.
The indisputable LEAP logic. It's not like it's a unified field theory. You don't need higher math to grasp the obvious.
No. In fact, I said to my friend of mine, he says, well, why do you think prohibition of drugs doesn't work? I said, because prohibition doesn't work. He said, well, yeah, but why do you think prohibition of drugs? I said, wait a minute. The policy of, show me one place on this planet throughout the history of our species where a society has prohibited people from doing something together that they wanted to do together, and it worked.
And look at the present situation. How many years have we had prohibition?
Right.
Does your friend think it is currently working?
Right.
And the answer is obviously, well, no. The follow-up question is, well, do we have to wait another day, week, year, decade? How long does it have to fail before you can see that it's still not working? Another 100 years? I don't think so. I think we've given the experiment many more years than it deserves to know it doesn't work.
Well, what I think is so dramatic to notice is also how its end has been such a significant success in just 2 states. We've brought in money into the coffers of county and state officials that are able to now fix potholes, pay teachers, and take care of state salaries, whereas prior to ending the prohibition in those 2 states, they were sinking in debt, could hardly afford the legal system that they were putting people through, and there was a lot of state employees who were having to live on credit.
The money, the influx of money has been tremendous, and a new piece, I just learned this the other day. I have been predicting that the feds, as Obama has said and hinted, as the president has said and hinted, the feds are moving in the direction of solving the banking problem, and we all believe, I suspect, that the feds have to get into legalization or they can't tax it, and they will not forego the taxes. Now, that sounds fine. What I just learned is this. In order for the legal businesses to pay their quarterly withholding taxes, since they don't have bank accounts, they are forced to drive down to one place in the state, in Denver, and Colorado's rather large. They have to go to Denver. They have to go by appointment, and they have no choice but to bring in the cash. All right, that's bad enough. here's the way the feds are stealing money. When you pay quarterlies in tax instead of a bank transfer, there's a federal 10% penalty. So the feds are sneaking in a 10% penalty on the quarterly withholding, so they're already taxing it.
Oh, Lord.
Well, and unless I'm mistaken, too, there's report after report coming out of both states that crime rates even dropped as well because of the prohibition law being put into effect.
What we know is Colorado crime rates have been and continue to drop. As far as cause and effect, I think that's speculating. The interesting thing is, to me, that they didn't go up, and that was the prediction. Crime rates will go up.
Yeah.
Well, we knew it wasn't going to happen, and it has not.
Well, all I know is many, many, many years ago, I took a hit off of a marijuana joint one time, and I immediately went out and robbed a bank. I mean, I couldn't help myself. It made me do it. I mean, this stuff is insane. You know, it's interesting. I'm in a discussion list with a bunch of addiction people on LinkedIn, and one of them put up a thing today, and he's talking about that old saw. You can't legalize these drugs, because I had just put something out the other day, because what about people when they come into work and and my response to him was real simple, just a couple lines. He wrote like about 20. I wrote, with drugs illegal, you still have the workplace problem you mentioned, but you also have all the violence, Chicago, and cover-ups to protect my poor friend who not only has a drug problem, but because it's illegal is also a criminal. You know, that's what we got to start getting people to understand, is this criminalization of what is normal human behavior, which is drug use. I mean, this is not some absurd thing. This is not people. And trust me, if I ever caught, when I was a cop, if I caught somebody forcing somebody into an alleyway and forcing them to use drugs, I would have arrested that person immediately, okay? Because you can't do that to other people. But what people choose to do in the privacy of their own life in a free society might need to be regulated, but should never be prohibited. I stick with my prediction. And my prediction, first one and only one I've made in the 25 years I've been in this movement. And that prediction is simply this: by the end of this year, marijuana will be moved out of Schedule 1. And that will be the end of the marijuana illegal discussion, because from that point on, marijuana will be legal. It'll be under the prescription program, but it will be legal. That's what I predict is going to happen.
My concern is if they make it Schedule 2, it shifts it from American capitalism and private enterprise into pharmacies. And what do pharmacies know about pot? Not much.
Exactly.
They know about opiates. As far as the workplace situation, people look at pot and say, oh, man, all of a sudden we've got this problem because everyone's coming in stoned because we can find an inactive metabolite that tells us they smoked within the last month. Well, back up a step. There are certainly a wide range of jobs where we do not want impaired workers. And I don't really care if they're impaired by alcohol or whatever it is that they're doing recreationally or medically. If we don't want our train engineers impaired, let's learn how to look at impairment more perceptively as opposed to a meaningless measurement. I heard from the owner of a large trucking company, and he didn't realize what he was saying. He said, we have federal contracts, so we're required to drug test. Now that we're drug testing with urine for the inactive metabolite, because that's what they do, it's cheap and quick, he said, now that we're testing for pot, I can't get any good employees.
Good employees.
He didn't realize that what he's saying is, I can't hire the stoners and the rest are bad employees.
Exactly. Sometimes we have to listen before we speak, you know. But I'm glad there's people out there on the other side, though. Keep them coming. I'm glad to have them working out there, you know. It is interesting. Again, we got a big push now. They're talking about really getting tough on heroin, and you know what they're going to do to get tough on heroin? The same thing they've been doing the last 40 years, only just a little bit more of it.
Well, the Taliban is not buying the bullets they shoot at us with marijuana money anyway.
Right.
They're buying it with heroin money.
Right.
And I still don't see the logic of buying bullets for the guys that are shooting them at you. That just sounds wrong to me. Maybe that's the influence of marijuana, but it just sounds wrong to me.
And I'll tell you right now, if we do away with the Schedule 1 in this country and have a legalized, regulated drug marketplace, I guarantee you that I bet you in less than 4 years, Colombia and Brazil will be the capitals of opium, not Afghanistan.
Well, and what you said, Your Honor, too, has been something that has caused me to pause about the common sense of the DEA, because certainly they recognized many moons ago that to remove the value from these drugs and from marijuana would make it impossible for them to utilize those drugs and marijuana for trade and for commerce. And the easiest way to do that is to what? Well, let's get Congress to pass a bill to end the prohibition here, regulate it here, make it so that you can buy it at a Kmart or a Walmart, and now suddenly they can't spend their energies and their drug money on buying bullets to kill the DEA. So you would think that just out of self-preservation and to keep their agents from being in harm's way, they would have enacted sensible policies many moons ago.
There are many things on the shelf at Walmart that I choose not to buy. And if and when they put crack on the shelves of Walmart, that'll be on the list of things I choose not to buy.
Yeah, one of our speakers, we had an email exchange, and one of our people said, I can't remember who it was now, but what he was comparing was back during alcohol prohibition, the money that the cops were making on prohibition was the money that they were being paid in bribes and stuff like that to look the other way. Today, we have the money the cops are making on this prohibition coming from the government, coming from forfeitures, coming from all these
in addition to the money that's still taken by some in law enforcement in the form of bribes and protection money. That's not gone.
Oh, exactly. In fact, just in case anybody, when they hear about police corruption, if they get all angry, I finally figured out what the initial cause of police corruption is. I finally figured it out after all these years. And the problem is we have police corruption because we hire our species to be police officers.
Good golly, Miss Molly, let's stop doing that.
And I don't know if everybody understands this, but when you take that oath to be a police officer, it doesn't change a thing about you being a human being. You're still a human being, and you still respond to things like human beings respond. And some people respond honestly and straightforwardly, and some people got their hand out looking for a little on the side, and you're never going to get done with that. But I'll tell you right now, I have never heard of a cop who was paid off by the local rapist or the local bank robber or the local burglar. It's always gambling, prostitution, drugs, all these nonviolent offenses that the cops know it is their job to go out and arrest people for. So why should I waste my time and what the hell I can make a little money on the side too?
I got to jump in here right now and accept my bribe and take my money on the side and pay our bills with a commercial break. And I want to let people know that it's true because I am a journalist. That means, in all essence, I truly am a whore here at Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
clinics are the premier physician's clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
In need of a ganja vacation? Blaze away.
Don't criticize it.
Hotbox Jamaica. Chill. Relax and burn all day while watching the amazing ocean view. Listen to the birds. Bathe in the mineral waters of the Ganja River. Munch on tasty Jamaican Rasta food. Take a weed farm tour and hold a meditation. Book this amazing vacation for $420. Get the Sativa Special. 7 nights in Sativa dorms with ganja meals and airport transfer. Check us out at hotboxjamaica.com. That's hotboxjamaica.com. Hotbox Jamaica, a higher meditation vacation.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp.
1, 2, 3, 4. Get right to the point and roll me a joint. The marijuana polka. Find me a dove and we'll call it love. The marijuana polka. Flick me your mitt and we'll get off real quick. The marijuana polka. My baby and I will get so high to the marijuana polka. Now roll me a smoke, yeah, give me a toke. The marijuana polka. Lock up the doors and we'll wax up the floors. The marijuana polka. Yeah, give me a line and we'll dance all night. The marijuana polka. My baby and I will get so high to the marijuana polka. Ahoy! got your lid, now don't keep it hid. The marijuana polka. Come sing along and we'll load up the bomb. The marijuana polka. I roll up some caps and watch for the cops. The marijuana polka. My baby and I will get so high to the marijuana polka. Señorita, sí, sí, señorita, sí, sí. La marijuana polka. Federales, oh no, federales, oh no. La marihuana polka. Tequila es bien, panocha también. La marihuana polka. Mi linda y yo somos bichatos. La marihuana polka. Borrachos, borrachos, míranos. Borrachos. Señorita, sí, sí, señorita, sí, sí. La marihuana polka. Federales, oh no, federales, oh no. La marihuana polka. Tequila es bien, panocha también. La marihuana polka. Mi linda y yo somos bichatos. La marihuana polka. My baby and I will get so high to the marijuana. The marijuana. The marijuana polka.
You are listening to Time for Hemp live all around the world. I am your host, Casper-Leitch. That was the Marijuana Polka, one of my favorite songs. And yes, it's true. While we were listening to the Marijuana Polka, I was dancing all around the living room and kicking up my feet and having a good old time with all of my friends here on the big broadcast. It is Wednesday, Leap Day, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and we are talking about the horrific policies of prohibition that have crippled our country and ruined our future. And I can sincerely tell you, these policies are just straight up evil, nonsensical. I mean, if you were outlawing plants that you would see in Little Shop of Horrors where they scream, "Feed me Seymour," and when you go by, they eat humans. And if a human or a dog were to wander off into a field would never come back alive, I can say, oh my God, yes, please. Let's outlaw these murderous plants. Or, I don't know, somebody outlawed poison ivy 100 years ago. I don't think anybody would be going, oh, well, let's get that back. You know, yeah, that makes sense. But these ninnies, these really horrible people outlaw, first of all, a plant that gives us 50,000 different products, medications, food and fuel, and clothing, and jobs. Seriously? Really? Well, then while we're at it, let's outlaw the air and the sun. What do you think, Your Honor? Is that a good idea?
It makes about as much sense as the beginning of marijuana prohibition, where people were frightened so much by the government that they were willing to outlaw rope.
Yep.
You know, that's interesting because when we banned alcohol, we didn't burn all the cornfields.
No, and we still grew grapes.
And grapes, right?
And used those for jellies.
Absolutely.
And I keep thinking, we've banned things that are completely benign, and I can go down to the corner store and buy a bottle of aspirin, and we have roughly 1,000 people a year in the United States alone getting killed by aspirin. compared to the pot number, which is 0, as we know.
So I don't get it. I just don't get it. And that's what this movie's all about, too, isn't it? And how the change is a much better change.
What Adam and Anthony Hashem did was they made a number of trips to Colorado. This was a 2-year project. They went into it with the attitude that they were going to document the legalization, and in fact they were joking through the 2 years, if it's not legalized, we don't have a movie. They put together the history. They also made it very funny, so it's really a kick to watch. Doing everything from going down to what we call Lodo, where all the bars in the football stadium and baseball, where you go on a Friday night at 2 a.m. when the bars are closing down, and the sidewalks are crammed one side of the street to the other with younger people, a fair number of whom are trashed on alcohol. So when Adam and Anthony were down there filming at 2 a.m. one night, they have some film of people that had been smoking pot, and whether you agreed with them or not, they were speaking clearly, they were speaking at least somewhat intelligently, and then they had the people running up to the camera screaming unintelligibly and obviously just trashed on alcohol. Pot just doesn't do that. Now, we do have a learning curve. We do have people who are unfamiliar with the edible forms, eat too much and end up nauseous or anxious. But nausea and anxiety for eating way too much in edibles, contrary to the instructions on the package, you eat what's labeled as 10 doses, it's not as much fun. Will it kill you? No. Will it be better in a few hours? Yes. But that's an excuse now to, yes.
It's interesting when you say that. We, our governor of New York signed a medical marijuana bill, and one of the things that's in the bill is the form that is banned still is smoking. It's only legal now if it's a non-smoking form. And smoking is the easiest way to titrate use. I mean,
that's very well established. That's scientifically established by more than one experiment that the self-titration, the determination of the dosage that an individual wants, is quite accurately controlled by those who smoke, because the active THC, which is the reason people smoke generally or vaporize, is so high in the rate that it increases in your blood that people have immediate feedback on what's happening.
Well, and I know people who cook with marijuana, oftentimes what they're cooking are brownies and cakes and cookies. And to be honest, if anybody has an overdose of medical marijuana, their real problem, I have a hunch, would be obesity. Because you have to eat a lot of brownies and cookies and cakes.
It's also, you got to remember, and I think each of us has probably done this, and a lot of listeners have. You're all going out after work today to have a few drinks, and you get stuck for like about an hour and a half of overtime, so everybody's an hour and a half ahead of you when you get to the bar. So you start trying to catch up, and about 45 minutes later, you're the drunkest person in the room. Alcohol's the same way. You don't feel the first drink of alcohol until about a half an hour after you drink the alcohol.
Right.
You know?
Well, and as you know, depending on what you are drinking, I have read, I don't know this is true, but it sounded convincing. I have read, for example, with champagne, it peaks in 10, 15, 20 minutes in your blood. With beer, it peaks in about an hour. So depending on what it is in the glass, the time when it hits you the most varies. And the last time I read about that, nobody had yet figured out why. People thought carbonation, that's been eliminated. People thought sugar, that's been eliminated. So at this point, as far as I know, we still don't know why we have this differing rate of onset with alcohol.
Well, and I've also noticed, too, that people will reach for marijuana for different reasons than they reach for alcohol, I think. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard somebody say, oh, my God, I'm so upset, or I've had a bad day, or I'm stressed out. Quick, give me a drink. Quick, I need a shot. Quick, I got to have a beer. But I've never had anybody say, I'm so stressed out. Quick, I got to have a hit. It's usually like, well, let's just chill out and relax and have fun. Oh, and quick, let's have a hit. And it's never quick. Let's have a hit.
What that brings to mind is this. I think many of the people, let's step away from medical for a moment. Many of the people that smoke pot would say, I'm smoking it to get a buzz.
Right.
What's the shock? I want a buzz, I'm going to smoke some pot. When you deal with alcohol addiction and you fill out one of the very standard tests used by the probation department, one of the multiple choice questions is, I drink because it tastes good, and there's a list of things, and the only right answer is to get a buzz.
Yeah.
And so many people who drink don't get that right answer. And I'm suggesting that people who smoke frequently have the insight to realize, I'm smoking to get a buzz.
Right. Smoking to chill out. Take it easy. Make the day better.
A lot of those alcohol consumers you're talking about, they can't acknowledge that. I think the problem is because they think there's something wrong with it, so they make other excuses for their behavior.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking back personally, and of course, since we're not on the air, I can share this privately off the record.
No, we are on the air.
I'm teasing.
Okay.
If I'm furious at my wife, I am predicting that if I then consumed large quantities of alcohol, the chance of something bad happening increases. On the other hand, if I'm mad at my wife and I have a few tokes, the next thing I know, I really can't imagine what I was mad about. It couldn't have been. It just doesn't seem important anymore. And I'm embarrassed that I showed the anger verbally. Because inevitably, whatever it was just not bad enough to raise my voice.
Well, I think that the reality is that whether we're on drugs or not on drugs, the reality is we have to take responsibility for our actions. And the drugs,
well said.
The drugs are not an excuse or a reason for bad behavior. They are just the drugs. The guy that taught me all I ever had to know about drugs was old Andrew Weil, back with his book Natural Mind. And that summed it up for me, because what it taught me in that book was that drug use for our species is normal. Addiction and abuse, abnormal. Use is normal. We all use different things. Some people listen to music to change their consciousness. Some people take drugs. Either one of them is normal.
That's right. People who make stupid mistakes when they're not high will make stupid mistakes when they are high. You can't blame being high for being stupid.
As I've said many times, smoking pot does not make people stupid. But some stupid people do smoke pot.
That's true. And with that said, we're going to take a commercial break and pay our bills here on Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
If you are in the Portland, Oregon area and are an OMMP cardholder, then come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market, Portland, Oregon's first and only weekly OMMP market, presented by the Alternative Wellness Center, located at 5241 Southeast 72nd Avenue, 2 blocks south of Foster Boulevard, close to public transportation, held every Sunday 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., connecting quality vendors with patients. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market also has a weekly raffle with products from every vendor, so come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market and have fun while connecting with quality vendors and getting great natural medicine. If you are a vendor and want a chance to connect with OMMP patients, you can check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Alternative Wellness Center or call 971-888-4392. Be sure to register early because space is limited. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market.
In need of a ganja vacation? Blaze away.
Don't criticize it.
Hotbox Jamaica. Chill.
Legalize it, yeah.
Relax. And burn all day while watching the amazing ocean view. Listen to the birds. Bathe in the mineral waters of the Ganja River. Munch on tasty Jamaican Rasta food. Take a weed farm tour and hold a meditation. Book this amazing vacation for $420. Get the Sativa Special. 7 nights in Sativa dorms with ganja meals and airport transfer. Check us out at hotboxjamaica.com. That's hotboxjamaica.com. Hotbox Jamaica, a higher meditation vacation.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Free? Did you say free? Free hemp? Free hemp? Free hemp video and audio? Free downloads of all the top artists, all the pot artists on planet Earth. Interviews with all the people making the movement, making the hemp movement. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp.
It is time for hemp all around the world. It is Casper-Leitch on the microphone. It is Leap Wednesday, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. It is the great Peter Criss, joint founder of that great organization, on as our joint host today. Peter, we're down to the last 12 minutes. I'll let you in your honor have a good joint conversation. Though I am a little curious because the ACLU has been pointing out that we've had a large number of SWAT teams attacking people. That's what I call it, attacking people. Nearly 80% of the SWAT raids studied by the ACLU were used to serve search warrants. Really, usually in drug cases. SWAT teams are forcing their ways into people's homes, often in the middle of the night, using paramilitary weapons and tactics, and doing needless damage to people and property. Poor communities and communities of color bear the brunt of this unnecessary force. Many animals and pets are killed in the process. Recently, a 20-month-old toddler was hit by a flash grenade and has suffered horrible pain and damage to the body all over. And Your Honor, what's happening to the SWAT raids there in Colorado?
In part, the focus is shifting to other drugs, and in part, there has been a shift towards trying to bust the people that they believe are not following the rules. They got very unhappy when a bunch of money out of Colombia came in to finance some recreational marijuana. So they're shifting the focus a bit. And what I'm thinking is, and this is confirmed by what we're seeing so far in Colorado, if you are growing pot in your basement, the chance of you being the victim of an armed home invasion carried out by criminals who want to steal your cash and pot is way lower than your chance of having law enforcement come in the front, back door, and windows with machine guns and flashbangs and tools that were developed for other purposes in many cases. That's where the risk of armed invasion is.
Good Lord.
Absolutely. In fact, it's interesting when you talk about that. I came on a job in 1969, and I worked on a 120 officer police department. We served a community of 85,000. If we had a search warrant, we sent 2 or 3 people out to serve the search warrant. If we had an arrest warrant, we'd send 2 people out to serve the arrest warrant. That's the way
they knocked at the door and said, search warrant.
I got a warrant signed by a judge, excuse me, whatever, we're looking for, or we have a warrant for your arrest, take him into custody. That's the way we did business. And I'll tell you, anybody that's listened to this show or heard me before knows that I am very big about the words we use. Nixon changed the whole nature of policing in America when he sent us to war. And he said, we got a war on drugs. And that whole mentality took over my old profession. In fact, I saw it. I left there in 1989 as a captain. And in 1990, they started their first drug unit on that department. And the reason they started the drug unit was because they were missing out on all the forfeiture money.
Nixon was a very twisted, sick man.
Oh.
And what disturbs me the most is that within our system, he got to be president. That's terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing we did with Cheney is make him vice president. I mean, we didn't give him that job.
And it could have been Sarah Palin just as easily.
Right, exactly.
Say that too loud, you'll get shot in the face. Careful.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I don't go hunting anymore. So but yeah, it's just intriguing. We've militarized police. I see it when I visit my old department. The attitude is different. They don't realize. I used to say that the most interesting thing about police work was that every time you made an arrest, you are arresting your boss, because we work for the people. Well, I'll tell you something, that has been lost in my old profession.
It is being regained. Personal example. 5 years ago, if someone had knocked on my door and I looked out and there was a police officer, what would go through my mind is, damn, did I leave a roach in the ashtray? Do I have a problem? Now, if a police officer knocks on the door because my alarm system went off, my first reaction is, oh, man, great to see you. You want to step in? It's entirely different. It's changed the nature of our relationship to law enforcement in an extremely positive way and shifted it more towards the way that it should be, so they can do their jobs
And let me reiterate that as well. When I was first considering the idea of moving to Portland, I came for a week to look for a place to check it out. And during my stay here, I was a guest of Paul Stanford's, and one of his indoor gardens had been busted into. And they were seeing the perpetrators on monitor. They called the police. The police got there before Paul did. Paul drove down. They went into, they sent a dog into Paul's warehouse. Then they went in and got the perpetrators, arrested the perpetrators. They asked Paul for a copy of the digital tape that was created, and Paul said no problem because they wanted to use it in court as evidence. They shook Paul's hand and thanked him for all he's doing in the community. And I knew at that point, if I ever needed to call the police, they would come and arrest the perpetrators. And like you said, not me, because I had a joint in the car or a bag in the house or a pipe open by my computer. That, you know, they were really my friends now, and they were there to help me live in a safe community.
We're seeing that in Colorado also on a very practical level. If there is an armed robbery of a medical marijuana dispensary, law enforcement is treating it as seriously as any other armed robbery, which is what it should be. And we're seeing that happen.
Yep, exactly. And that's what happens when you get law enforcement out of the prohibitionary business. You know,
and most of them are very happy about that. They don't want to be the bad guy.
I'll tell you right now, gay people in America like cops a lot more than they did back in the 60s when in every state but Illinois we were arresting them for being gay.
There you go. You go. In fact, the movie that premiered last night has me coming out of the closet, and I hope people will see it and be surprised, but I do, on screen, smoke pot.
Mm-hmm.
The people that made the film smoke pot in front of one of our most conservative congressmen, Tom Tancredo. Now, he went back on his bet. His bet was, if pot is legalized, I will smoke with you. This was to Adam Hartle, the producer. He went back on that, but after the legalization, when they asked him if they could light up in the follow-up part of the film shoot, he said, sure. So they were sitting around smoking pot, and he was sitting there, and they continued an intelligent, unslurred, not stupid conversation. That was wonderful to see. I was very impressed by his attitude.
Awesome. Well, we're down to the last...
Go ahead.
We're down to the last few minutes, and I can say this. My mama told me that long before I smoked marijuana, she knew I was going to smoke marijuana. I don't know how she knew that, but she said...
My mom could smell it around the block. She would say, your friend is around the block, and he's about to come around the corner, and I can smell it from here. He's smoking pot in his car. And damned if she wasn't right every time.
You got anything out there coming up that you want to plug, particularly showing of the movie or anything else out there?
We have two more showings at the Mayan Theater, tonight at 9, tomorrow at 9, and the people that made this movie are continuing to legally give anyone who shows up, whether or not they buy a ticket for the movie, a small little package with a little bud in it. Here's a gift. And one adult can give another adult a gift of a little bit of pot. And I don't know of any movie where that's happened before.
No kidding. That's great, man. And that's happening on the 50-year anniversary of the release of Hard Days Nights weekend. Now, is that cool or what?
Very much.
That's pretty cool.
And I will say goodbye, as I usually do, leap.cc, copsaylegalizedrugs.com. If you go to the website, leap.cc, you'll see that we're requesting people to send in stories about their involvement, personal or family, in the drug war. And we're going to make up a group of them and put them together into some form. But if you have a story to tell, go to the Leap website and tell your story. And as I always do, I end with these words. Bad things continue to happen because good people stay silent. Casper?
And I do want to remind people that tomorrow we have Paul Stanford on as the joint host of the big broadcast. I can't believe this week's gone by that fast. And he and I have a lot to share. Paul has saved the network, quite honestly. It looks like he will become the owner of the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network and help build it so that it grows into a viable, strong broadcasting source. And we'll be talking about that perhaps tomorrow or more. Then on Fridays, Small Town Fridays, Michael Krawitz is the joint host, and we roll into a small town somewhere on the planet and put a spotlight on the hardworking activists here on the big broadcast. We are no longer just one little show making one little noise here. Used to be an hour broadcast. We are now a large team of people. Judge James Gray, as a matter of fact, will be doing his show tomorrow afternoon here on the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network. And we have twice a week in Spanish, once a week in French. We're working on the Japanese version now. Be adding German here soon to the broadcast. Next week, Muck Sticky starts his show. And you're going to want to make it a point to share your friends with that. He's got a large following from all around the world. Joe Grumbine begins his show on Monday of next week as well. Kevin Z started last week, and so did Drew West. And so we are growing constantly, and there's a lot of programming to be found. Coming up next, out of England, Steve Danks does his program, Hemp Works. Now, that's a shameless plug for the network. That's our way of letting you know that we are soon to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, letting the whole world know how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look and spend some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales.